Hydrogen is an interesting one because hydrogen has been developed by the Germans since about 1886. And over the years, including the Hindenburg disaster, which everybody remembers, that was a hydrogen deflagration. Not a lot of people know this, but the Germans continue to work on hydrogen and blew up a number of other aircraft, which we don't have the stories about and so on. The Atlas rocket program that took us to the moon was based on hydrogen propulsion of rockets. So those were all hydrogen rockets. I had the privilege of having a one-on-one lunch with Elon Musk a number of years ago. Yeah. And I asked him, because we were talking about space, it was actually in a space conference that we met. And he was in the early stage of establishing SpaceX. And I said to him, what's your vision for SpaceX? And he said it would be to take SpaceX away from hydrogen-based fuel and to not use hydrogen as the fuel because it's too dangerous. And so the SpaceX rockets are designed on the principle that there is no hydrogen in those rockets. They are fired with liquid fuels. And you will notice also that Elon Musk did something else which is really brave. He was prepared to see rockets that had any people on the top of them explode on takeoff. So he perfected the engines so that he reduced the risk of that ever happening when you had humans in the top of the rocket. He shared all of that with me in that discussion before he built SpaceX. And he had the great courage, I think, to transform space travel. And it was based on what he saw the Russians doing. Because you will remember the old Saturn rockets standing up all the way there. The reason they had to stand up was if they were on their side, the hydrogen fuel tanks would be crushed under their own weight. It was just a big hydrogen fuel tank in a very thin-skinned rocket. The Russian rockets, when they went to launch them, would all be lying on a flatbed truck, and they would get it to the launch pad and make it stand up much cheaper, liquid fuels. And so by observation, we don't have to go to space with hydrogen. Nobody needs hydrogen. Hydrogen is 1 part per billion in the atmosphere of the, I lied, 14 parts per billion. How much is 14 parts per billion? If you had soccer balls right around the circumference of the equator and you looked for the hydrogen, there would be one hydrogen atom, one hydrogen soccer ball for all of those. We did not evolve with hydrogen. There are a few vents deep in the Pacific Ocean where some critters have learned to live with hydrogen that comes out of those little vents. Everywhere else that I know of in the planet, no life co-evolved with hydrogen. There is a reason that we didn't co-evolve with hydrogen, is that in a range from about 8% to 94% hydrogen in the atmosphere, you light a flame and it will combust. It's called deflagration. That flame propagates below the speed of sound. Everybody who wants to can look at a hydrogen explosion. The explosion that damaged the Fukushima reactors, which we've all seen, we've all watched that flame propagate. That wasn't nuclear material. That was hydrogen. That hydrogen was formed when the reactor cores got too hot and above the level of the water, it reacted with the atmosphere to create hydrogen and oxygen. That got out of those reactors into the atmosphere. At a certain point, a spark entered that cloud of hydrogen. The Fukushima reactor explosion was not a nuclear explosion. It was a hydrogen explosion. So when people say, I don't want nuclear because of Fukushima, the only lesson you might have learned is that you don't want hydrogen because of Fukushima. You might want safe, modern nuclear because Fukushima can never happen to a modern nuclear reactor. But hydrogen is always dangerous, whether it's made as a result of an accident in a conventional water reactor, or whether you think that you'll go and buy a cylinder to replace your carbon dioxide cylinder to put in your drinks. Hydrogen will always be too dangerous to be near humans, and certainly never in a home with children.